Hello, my name is Eran Stern, and in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to use Helium for After Effects to create this short teaser. Alright, so we have a lot of stuff going on here. I'm going to walk you through the basics and then break down this composition that I've created. Now I'm going to move to this starting stage, and before I'll start, I'm just going to show you that if you want to test Helium on your own, go ahead to this web address, heliumx.tv, and grab yourself a copy. This is a full-blown 3D motion design plugin, basically a software within a software. It works seamlessly inside After Effects, and it is very fast. You can do a ton of stuff using this effect, such as abstract effects, 3D models, 3D text, tons of materials, as well as visualization, motion graphics, terrain, splines, and lots of other stuff. I'm not going to cover everything this tool has to offer, so go ahead and try it on your own. For now, let's bring back After Effects to the front, and I'm going to show you what I did in advance. So I have this clip of some tunnel with few graffitis on the walls, and I already took the time and applied the 3D camera tracker effect. And then after applying the 3D camera tracker, I also normalized the scene. So I've used this free script, and you can get this script from this link over here. I of course already did it, so my scene is already normalized. So what I have here is a 2D text, which I'm going to use in a moment, but I also have few placeholders. So I'll switch on the camera, I'll show you the floor, and then this is the title. This is where I want to place the title in the scene. So this card represents where the title should be. There's also a solid for the graffiti, which is in front of the title. And after both of these, I also plan to have some boombox. So this is where the tape is going to land. Now I'm going to switch off the visibility of all of these layers. These are just X, Y, Z coordinates that we are going to use to build our scene. Our main hero here is the Helium layer. So I'll make sure nothing is selected over here. Press Command or Control Y to create a new solid. I'll create a black one. I'll name it Helium. I'll make sure it is set to the comp size, and I'll click OK. Then I'll go to the Effect menu, and from the Helium category, I'll add the first one, which is Add Helium Effect. And this is going to prompt us with this interface. You can search for things here. You can use these quick links, which will allow you to create models, primitives, some splines, browse materials, motion graphics scenes, as well as terrain and abstract objects. So go ahead and browse this. But in our case, I'm just going to scroll down and I'm going to use this extrude option. Now, before I start, I just want to call your attention to this button, the download one. If you are starting to use this plugin, you definitely want to download all the extra content, so you'll have all the materials and all the presets for your disposal. So I already did it, but just to make sure that you are not missing it, click on download, then download the file, install it, and restart After Effects. But for now, I'm going to click on these options over here, or actually double click on it, and this will show me a few presets. I'll start with this one. This is an animated one. So I'll click apply, and this is going to apply itself to the scene. Now, what happened here is that we have a dummy text, a Helium text. This is the placeholder. We're going to replace it with our text. But if I scrub the timeline, we can get a sense of where the text is. Now, currently, I don't want the animation. So in the extrude option that I have over here, I'm going to switch off the animation. And I'm also going to use the title card that I created as a guide for the null that Helium created. So notice that under motion null, it is actually using layer number 2, which is the Helium null. First, I'm going to change the name of the layer here to title. And then I'm going to hold down the Shift key and use the parent and link pick whip and point it to the title over here. And this is actually going to use the 3D coordinates that I already have in the scene. So basically it is placing this title exactly where the 3D card was in 3D space. Now we need to mess with the lighting and the textures and all the other stuff. But first, let's return to the Helium layer and change the path layer from the default Helium to our text, the history of London's graffiti. As soon as I'll select this, this is going to be the layer which is going to be extruded. I'll change the bevel here to 60 and give myself a little bit of depth, actually much more. So let's go with 160. So we'll have a nice thick letters. All right, if I'll scrub the timeline, I can see that it is already looking quite nice. Now what I want to do is go through the upper O, the inner circle here, and just pass through it. So I need to move the text a little bit and maybe also scale it. So let's do some housekeeping first. I'll select the Helium text. I don't need it anymore. I'll press delete to delete it. Also notice that we have a Helium materials comp over here. You can actually drag it to the end of the stack. This is just a placeholder for all the materials, so the plugin will know what to use and how to get it. You can also shy this layer and click on the shy icon. You don't need to see it. And also notice that there is a light. This is, if I'll double click, a point light that we are getting by default. Now, if we want, we can see the scene from a different perspective. So let's click where it says active camera and choose custom view 1. This is going to show us where the light is. I'm going to lower it a bit and maybe drag it all the way back so it will actually lead the scene a little bit better. Now I'll press escape and this is going to bring me back to the previous camera, which was the active camera view. Now I'm going to select the title null. And then I'm going to open it. And actually, let's just press S to see its scale properties and scale it so the title will be a little bit bigger just between those two walls. I can now add the position properties by pressing Shift P. And then let's move our cursor, our timeline over here to 6 seconds. This is where I want to go through this O letter. So I'm going to lower it down and maybe even scale this a little bit more. And then I can play with the Z value. All right, something like this. I think that we need to go a little bit higher and then move to the left. All right, this will do for now. Let's just work on the appearance of this text, this 3D text. First, I'll select the light itself, press P to show the position. And of course, we can still move the position just to light it a little bit nicer. Maybe something like this. I'm also going to double click on the light itself and use the color picker to sample a yellow color from the scene. Click on this yellow color and take it to a brighter color. Click OK. And then I can still move it, let's say, a little bit more up. All right, something like this looks nice. Now I really want to see the material of the light. So I'm going to create a backlight over here. I'll select the light that I already have. Press Command or Control D to duplicate it. Move again to the custom view 1. By the way, you can press Escape, of course. And then I'm going to drag it so it will be somewhere over here. And press Escape to return to this view. And then P to see the position. And I think that I need to move the X position. I'm also going to double click this light and change its color to something a little bit more neutral. And now, when we are moving through those letters, we can actually see the texture. So now I can still move this backlight until I get it to be exactly where it needs to be. This is very fun. Look at the speed of this plugin. Excellent. All right, let's leave it like this. And I think those lights are a little bit stronger right now. So I'll select both of them, press T to show the intensity, and let's reduce the intensity to 50%. I think this should be enough. Excellent. Now let's create a shadow on the floor. And for that, we need a plane. So I'll return to the Helium plugin, and after finishing with the extrude, I can actually close it up, go back to the effect menu, and I can add another component. So this is the way you work with this effect. You can go back to the add Helium effect and use the browser to look for stuff or presets and add them to the effect controls, or you can just work on your own. So in my case, I'm going to use the primitive option, and I'm going to select a plane. I'm going to create a null for this plane, which is over here. I can close the layer in the timeline now, and I'll do the same thing that I did before. So I have a floor layer here that I've prepared ahead of time. I'm going to hold down Shift and use the parent pick whip and just point it to the floor. And this is going to stick the floor in the correct position in 3D space. Now I can return to the primitive options, and I can play with the size X and the size Y. Now I'm not too worried about the appearance of this layer because this is just going to serve as a shadow catcher. But I do want to make sure that I'm placing it in the correct coordinates. So I'll press P again, and I'll move the X value somewhere over here, just to make sure that I'm covering the entire ground. All right, I think that this should do. And again, don't worry about the appearance. We're going to deal with it in a moment. For now, we need another light. This one is going to cast the shadow. So I'll make sure nothing is selected. I'll go to the layer menu over here, and under new, I'll select new light. Now for shadow castings, at this point, you can create a spot or a parallel light. I'll use the spot option because this way I can control the shadow darkness as well as the shadow diffusion if I want to. I'll click OK, and to help me move this light and position it in 3D space, I'll first cancel the point of interest. To do it, I'll make sure the light is selected, go to the layer menu over here, and under transform, I'll select auto orient. I'll set the auto orientation to off, and this means that now I can press R to see the orientation and rotation, and I can just plug in negative 90 degrees to make sure that the light is pointing down. Again, I'll press the escape key, and this is going to show me the previous camera state, which is custom view 1. And now I can just use this 3D gizmo and drag this light. I'll press C to see where my camera is. Okay, the light is completely in the wrong position. So I'll need to take it over here, drag it somewhere over here. Maybe drag it a little bit more to the left. Excellent. We can already start to see how this works and just raise it up. Now we can press escape again, return to the regular view. And because the light is more or less in the desired position, we can add Shift P to see the position properties, and we can continue to fiddle with it from the timeline. Maybe I want it to be a little bit more higher and move it to taste. Now notice how fast everything is working here. I'm also going to press AA in sequence. This is going to show me the darkness and the diffusion. So I can start to play with the diffusion. But I will get a better view of the scene if I'll return to the Helium layer and then click on Edit. And this is going to take me directly to the material section of this plane. And I'm going to use this material, which is a special one. It's called Matte Shadow, and it's only going to render the shadows. I'll click Apply. And just like that, we have our desired shadow. So now we can add some diffusion. We can also lower the darkness just to match it to the scene, the shadows that we are seeing in the scene. Something like this I think will work. And of course we can continue and move it. Maybe something like this. Excellent. All right, already it looks very promising. I want to mention that I'm using full quality right now. So if I'll press spacebar, you can see how fast this is working. And you can also see the quality of the render. All right, so now we have some sort of a problem. When we are reaching so close to these letters, they are basically disappearing. So we need to return to the Helium plugin and go to the cogwheel here, the settings, and you can click either one of them. So you have, for each instance, you have the same one, and they are going to basically be in sync with each other. So these are the render settings. You can change the render quality, you can change the output just in case you want to render a depth map. But in our case, we just want to change the clipping. So I'm going to take the near value to, let's say, 5, click OK, and then we can check if this is working, and it is solving the problem over here. Excellent. All right, so the next thing is to bring another 3D object over here. I'll return to the Helium layer, and this time I'm going to add under Helium a model. I can click Import Model, and I can bring this OBJ. Now, I got this OBJ from a website called Sketchfab. I basically looked for graffiti tag, and this is what I came up with. So we can bring this with all its materials and everything. This is a free model, and basically you can bring OBJ and FBX directly into Helium. So this is an OBJ model. Of course, you can see it over here in the Finder. This is how it will render. I'm going to click Open, and the model is already here. Now, sometimes we can barely see it because it is very small. So under the model options, I'm going to just close the primitive and the extrude options for the Helium. Just concentrating on the model, we have a size, and we can start to increase it. You can already see that it is somewhere over there. Let's go with 50,000 in this case. And in this case, we also need to click on the Properties button and check Flip X. This is going to flip it so it will be oriented towards us. Now again, we can use the same method that I showed you before. Notice that by default, we have a motion null, which is going to help us to animate it and control it in the scene. I'm going to select this null here in the timeline, hold down Shift, and I'm going to parent it to the graffiti placeholder, the card that I prepared ahead of time. Now, in this case, I'm actually losing it, so I can't really see it. I can press S to show the scale and scale it, and I can also return to the Helium layer and change the alignment. This is the alignment between the null and the object itself. So you can choose between the default one, maybe the center one, which is bringing us a little bit more closer to where we want to be. So I'm going to select it again, hold down Shift and press R, because I may want to move this and change its direction or rotation. Now, obviously, this is still After Effects. Remember that I told you that the integration is very, very smooth. And to demonstrate it, I'm going to use the Pan Behind tool and move the anchor point of the null object. So I'm going to try and place it by eyeballing it to the middle of this object. It's going to be difficult from this angle, so I might as well press Escape again to see it from another angle. I'm also going to hold down the Alt key, and then using my left mouse, I can move around the scene. Using my right mouse with the Alt key pressed, I can track inside. This means that I can still move it to where I think it needs to be, and then check it from different angles. Right, we are almost there. It's worth investing time, just making sure that you have the null object exactly where you need it. I think this is close enough. All right, pressing escape again. We are back in business. Let's see. Now we can rotate it very easily. All right. So maybe we'll start from here, this angle. I'm going to add the position by pressing Shift P. Now I can scale it even further. I can raise it up. And at the beginning here, what I would like to do is basically cover the entire text here, the entire title with this graffiti. So I'm just going to freely position it so it will be difficult to see. You don't need to be precise. This is more or less the plan. I'm going to create a keyframe for the Y rotation. Let's start with 0 here, or maybe even tilt it like this. And then after 1 second, we're going to bring it back to where it was before. And of course, we can add additional keyframes for the position, for the scale, for the Z rotation, whatever we want. So in this case, I may want to just take it a little bit down. And maybe after a couple of more seconds, I want to tilt it so we can see the magnificent colors. Maybe bring it a little bit more down. So the text is going to be exposed. I think that we need to just bring it closer to us. So again, it's a little bit of back and forth of changing those values to what you are happy with. But you can see how easy it is and how fast everything is working. Still working in full res, and everything is just playing really nicely, really fast. All right, let's just bring all those keyframes together. Select everything, press F9 to easy ease. And I also think that I would like to add additional light here. Just a regular point light. No need to cast shadows in this case. I'll set the intensity to 50%. And in this case, I'm going to place the point light directly on top of the object. I can do it by holding down the Shift key and using the parent position. And this means that I have a good starting point. So I can drag this light now, make sure that we can see the nice colors, vivid colors that we have over here from this point. Right, maybe we want to take it just a touch more towards us, like that. So much fun and so fast. All right, so from this point onward, I think that you already got the drift of it. You can see how this works and how fast it behaves. Another thing that we can do is go back to the Helium layer, and I'll click on this little sunshine icon. This is the environment options. So we have a couple of built-in environment maps, or we can just close this, and this is going to show us the choose environment option, which is going to allow us to select one of the comp layers. I'm going to cheat and just use the same video that I have over here as an environment map. It's not really a 360 or HDRI map, but it's going to work very nice, as you can see here. This is also helping to bring all the elements a little bit better together because they are sharing the light from the environment. All right, so you get the drift. This is how you work with Helium. Basically, you are building all the ingredients in one layer. And of course, you can use the After Effects timeline to set up the timing. So for example, if you don't want to see this layer over here, just grab the layer itself and move it out of the way. If it's not visible in the timeline, Helium is not going to render it. So this tight integration with the After Effects timeline is something that I really like. I'm going to go to the final comp just to save some time because you already saw how this works and take you through a couple of extra steps that I've created in this final comp. First, there is motion blur enabled here. So the Helium plugin supports both motion blur and camera depth of field. So you can enable depth of field if this is something that you need. I also added this boombox 3D object over here. And to create this prism displacement, I'm using the Red Giant Universe Prism Displacement effect, part of the Universe family, of course. Just in case you're curious, I'll double click on the displace source to show you that I have two radio waves effect that I've placed manually on top of the speakers. And this is what I'm using as a source for this effect. Now, of course, everything starts over here. So basically, the model is not visible until we are going through the hole of the O. Now, these spheres on the floor, those are part of the cloner option that you have over here. So everything started up with a primitive, so just a simple sphere. If I'm going to switch off all the other layers just to show you this layer on its own, you can see, let's also switch off the displacement. You can see that what I'm using here is this sphere, and this is the cloner. So a great motion graphic tool. You can use the grid cloner, the offset, the radial, and scatter. So I'm repeating those spheres on this surface. Now, you are not seeing all of the spheres because I set the chance here to 27. So if I'm going to set it back to 100, this is 100% of everything. But you can play with the chance, and then of course there's also some seed if you like a different randomization. Very cool. All right, I'm going to enable the 3D text here just so we can see how everything is working in concert. And then the primitive, which is going to allow us to see the shadow here. I'm also going to enable the graffiti model as well as the boombox. And finally, I'm just going to show you that I added the levels effect just to match the black and white points, a little bit of Gaussian blur to blur those very sharp 3D models. And of course, you can change it over time if you like. And finally, I'm using the grain effect from the Universe plugins. So everything combined together gives us this result. Now I just want to show you how quick everything is going to be rendered on my Mac Studio Ultra machine. So what I'll do here is go to the Edit menu, and I'm going to purge all the memory and disk cache. I'll re-enable the Prism displacement layer. I'm also going to mention that there is a hip-hop sound that I created here inside After Effects. And finally, I'm going to go to the Composition menu and add this composition to the render queue. I'm going to specify where I want to save it, on my favorite place, the desktop, of course, and I'll click Render. And I'm just going to show you how fast this is going to work. Now again, this is with motion blur, full quality, and you can see how fast it goes. So on my machine, it took 1 minute and 31 seconds. Unbelievable, this is so fast. I'm telling you, if you really need a 3D toolset that works inside After Effects quickly and easily to create sleek and sophisticated 3D animations, go ahead and check out Helium, and I'm certain that you won't be disappointed. Until next time we'll meet, this is Eran Stern, and I'll see you next time.